Hi, welcome back to the channel. I missed you. So one of my favorite YouTube channels for music content is David Bennett Piano. His content's honestly perfect for somebody like me who has a cursory working understanding of music theory and composition, but would like to learn a little bit more. If that's something that you're even remotely interested in, I would heavily recommend checking him out. And it's very clear to me that he and I share the same favorite band of the Beatles. Maybe you've heard of them before. And he's made a couple of videos where he's completely recreated a Beatles song from scratch. I know he's done A Day in the Life. I think he's also done I Am the Walrus as well. Again, I highly recommend you check those out. And he was so kind to give me permission to shamelessly rip off that idea. So today I'm going to be trying to recreate Dear Prudence from scratch. Now, off the top of my head, I know there are at least 3 guitar parts. There's 2 from George. There's at least 1 from John. I'm not sure if it's doubled. There's a bass part from Paul. There's drums also from Paul. There is vocals from John, Paul, and George, both lead and backing vocals. And I believe there's someone else that was doing vocals on that song. They're the bridge. It was either Ringo or Mal Evans. I want to say it was Mal Evans, but that's not important. Then there's some pianos and a flugelhorn, and there may be and a tambourine, and there may be a little bit more as well. But I'm gonna have to dive in, and I can't play any of the original song without getting copyright struck. I'm sure any content creator can tell you that the Beatles are notoriously bad with that kind of stuff. Just for the record, I am going to be referencing both the 2009 remaster that's on Spotify and the 2018 remix. In almost every case, I prefer the 50th anniversary remixes, but I'm going to be referencing both of them and making my decisions based off that. And furthermore, there is another YouTube channel that is going to be a lifesaver for me in this case, and I love just watching their videos as well, because they're very interesting. But it's DLD2 Music. I'm also going to link that in the description as well, where they post a lot of deconstructed Beatles songs where they'll isolate every track and they'll play them individually of one another. So that's going to really help me out as far as arranging and the composition and whatnot goes, and being able to pinpoint the different tones as well. So with that being said, let's get into it. So that intro bit was recorded on day 1, and I spent the rest of day 1 trying to figure out how to record my desktop on my Mac with the desktop audio so you could hear as I was tweaking the settings and whatnot. And in the process of updating Mac OS, because I hadn't done that in like 4 years, I may or may not have accidentally deleted every file I had on Ableton since like 2014. And I still never figured out how to do it. So anyway, here's a little snippet of what John's guitar sounds like isolated. And it has a very kind of thin, kind of rubber bandy type tone to it, if that makes any sense. I know that at this point they were using Fender amps. They really kind of stopped using Vox once they stopped performing live. So I have here on Amplitube, I'm using Amplitube with the Fender pack. And I have it set on a twin reverb amp. I'm going to show my settings up on the screen here as I'm talking. I turned down the reverb. I put it on the bright channel and I upped the treble a little bit and rolled off some of the mids and a little bit of the bass. And this is what we're left with. And also note, I do not have an Epiphone Casino, so I'm going to be using my PRS Silver Sky for both John and George's guitars. Okay, and then up next we have George's guitar. So I'll play a little bit of that right now. And I notice here it has like a very sharp attack, but no real reverb after that. And it's very treble heavy. So what I've done, I'll go ahead and once again put settings up on the screen here in Amplitube. I'm using the 57 Deluxe, and the tone and the volume are both at about 3 o'clock. I really don't know if they had like a Tweed Deluxe like this in the studio with them at the time, but I really didn't want to have to use an overdrive pedal, so this is the closest I was able to get. And the only other thing I'm doing to it is I have a compression pedal set on here. The level, I just kept it at the same. It's at like 10 o'clock, and the compression is at 1 or 2 o'clock, and this is what I got. And before I continue any further, I do probably need to clarify, I'm not really tone chasing right now. I'm just trying to get a general feel of how it sounds and get as close as reasonably possible. I'm going to do some like studio magic with like EQing and whatnot, but I'm just trying to get reasonably close, so you get the idea. It doesn't sound completely foreign, but I'm not trying to nail it. So next we have Paul's bass. I'll play a little bit of that here real quick. So for this one, I do actually have a Rickenbacker. I just got this not too long ago. And I had a friend, it came with a toaster pickup in the neck. The guy that had it before the guy I bought it from had put in. So I just kept that in. And then I had my friend replace the normal high gain bridge with the horseshoe bridge, as we see here. I don't know if they sound all that different, but that's what I have. So you can tell from the tone of the video, it's very plunky. It's very, like, you can tell he's hitting really hard on the strings. And we know Paul always played with the pick. I also always play with the pick, so not going to change that up. Now, I'm not as concerned with nailing the tones on this one because it's going to get EQ'd when I go to mix the whole song together. But just to start out, I have it on the middle position, so both the neck and the bridge pickup are working. The tone and volume are all the way up. I have this little push-pull knob here pulled out. I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what that does. Well, actually, I will give you just the bridge pickup on its own. That's with the knob pushed in. And that's what it pulled out. And I'm running it through, once again, on Amplitube, running it through the Fender TBP-1 bass amp. I have both the deep channel and the bright channel turned on. I turned the bass up pretty significantly. Usually it's at like 4, and I turned it up to a little bit more than 6. And the treble, I turned that up a tiny little bit and rolled the mids down a tiny bit as well. And all that together and playing as hard as I think Paul is playing, we get something like this. Hey, let's play some drums. Most people that are interested in the Beatles enough to be watching this video probably already know that Ringo was not in the studio for recording of Dear Prudence, as he had left the band for a couple weeks, and as such it was Paul McCartney that was playing drums on this song. And it's been pretty well documented that Paul is the one on drums for Dear Prudence. I was doing a little bit of research over at BeatlesBible.com and found that the song was recorded over 3 days in 3 different recording sessions. And something else that I found out was that they said it was recorded in 1 take for the backing track, but that's because they were using an 8-track recorder, whereas before they had just been using a 4-track, and it would have to record an instrumental take, bump that to 1 track, and then record overdubs with the remaining 3 tracks. So by doing this with the 8-track, they were able to piece together instruments and kind of just overdub the whole thing, essentially. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm not really tone chasing here. I'm just trying to get a general feel for the sound of the recording to recreate it on my own. But what I have done here with the drums, the kick head, the resonant head of the kick drum is off. I have a pillow stuffed into there. And a lot of drummers in the 60s and 70s, the Beatles included, would dampen their drums, like the toms and the snare, with tea towels or anything that they had on hand. I have bandanas that I have used to just deaden the sound a little bit. And it's also pretty well known that starting in late 1966, the Beatles would often close mic their drums, which is now standard practice in studios to have each drum mic'd individually, as well as having overheads and maybe even root mics to pick up higher frequencies like the cymbals and whatnot. However, my little Scarlett 2i2 is one on its last leg, but also only has 2 inputs to work with. So I'm just miking up the kick drum with a Shure Beta 52, a pretty standard kick drum mic, and this AKG P420 large diaphragm microphone as an overhead mic. Now, again, not many people are going to try to dispute that Paul McCartney is the one playing drums for most of this song. However, for some reason, I find that there's a lot of debate over the fill at the very end. A lot of people say that it's too technically complicated for Paul to be able to play and that it was probably Ringo overdubbing it. And I guess, I don't know, I guess that's possible, but out of all the research that I was able to do, I couldn't find anything suggesting that this wasn't Paul playing drums. And while it's a little, complicated chops-wise, I don't think it's anything Paul would be incapable of doing. However, with that said, Ringo was very well known to have almost a perfect tempo and would pretty much not speed up or slow down at all during a Beatles recording. In fact, I think I remembered hearing from one of their studio engineers that out of every mishap and mess up where they had to do another take, he could count the amount of times it was Ringo's fault on 2 hands over the course of the 6 years that they were in the studio. However, since Ringo was not playing drums on this song, Paul was not quite as good at keeping a steady tempo, and it shows a little bit in this song. It speeds up ever so slightly between the beginning and the end. It's not as noticeable in the recording, but when you play the intro and then play the outro, you definitely tend to pick up on it. As such, I've recorded to a click track and I've tried to kind of automate the tempo throughout the song. It's not perfect by any means, but it's the best I can do. So with that being said, I'll give you a little taste of what these drums are going to sound like. All right, one of the last things I have to do on the instrumental is the Flugelhorn. I know Paul played the Flugelhorn. The first instrument he ever learned how to play was trumpet. So he knew how to, make the sounds, knew how to play a brass instrument. I do not know how to play a brass instrument. I did percussion in high school, and that was 10 years ago. Nor do I have a Flugelhorn. I don't think I know anyone that does have a Flugelhorn. I don't want to use MIDI for this if I don't have to. I want to keep it as real and as live as possible. I do have one little thing that might help me. So yeah, my neighbor gave us this when I was in high school because he knew that I played instruments and he didn't have a need for it. I never learned how to play it because I was a little busy. I only need to know how to play one note, and that's D. Yeah, it's a D. And I know that's third position. Other than that, I don't really know anything about how to make that noise other than kind of the general way to do it. So yeah, let's give it a shot. Jesus, I hope I can get this thing to make any noise whatsoever. Oh, well, that's something. Oh god, I don't know how to do the lips. We'll workshop it. All right. So added the little Flugelhorn. Added the tambourines as well. I got to add the piano, but I'll do that at a later time. And the last thing now that I have to add are the vocals. So John is obviously singing the lead vocals on this song. And it was pretty common for the Beatles, and John specifically, to manually double their vocal tracks. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to record the main vocal track and then do the same thing again and then just pan them left and right. And I'll do that for all the vocal tracks too, so I'm going to have a lot of them. I think 8 I will have, and that will put us at 18 tracks on this recording so far. My CPU is absolutely screaming right now, and I don't have the money to get a more powerful Mac. I mean, this thing's from 2015. It is on its last leg. Anyway, so John is singing the lead vocals, and then it seems that John, George, Paul, Mal, and then someone else, I think they said it was like McCartney's cousin on BeatlesBible.com, are singing the backing vocals in that little bridge section in the middle. So I'm going to give that a shot. 2 things to note before I go ahead and do it. I'm not going to record video of me doing it because I just hate watching myself sing. It's more of a me thing. But 2 things to note before I go ahead and hit record on the vocals. The backing parts where they're just doing the ahs is insanely long, and I've never been great at falsetto, but this is going to require inhuman breath control. I'm going to try it, but no promises if I get it 100% right. And then lastly, Mal Evans's part, he's singing just in the bridge part. He sings a low D underneath everybody, just kind of ground it there. And the lowest note that I can reliably hit is a low E, which is like a step above that low D. So I'm going to try singing the low D. I've been drinking a ton of water to make sure my voice is open. But if I can't hit that, I might do a little studio magic and pitch shift my voice. But I don't know. We'll see. Alrighty, so I have now added the piano. For the piano, I did 2 piano tracks. One of them was just a standard Ableton upright piano that I had on the bright setting, and I didn't change anything past that. The other one was using Spitfire Audio's Jangle Box piano. It is a VST instrument that is modeled roughly after the piano that the Beatles would have had in the studio at the time. Not the Mrs. Mills piano, but similar enough. And yeah, here's the final product. If you've liked this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more videos similar to this one. And let me know what other kind of videos you'd like to see me do. One more thing before we get going with the final product. This is the largest Ableton file I have ever had on my computer to date. So I briefly mentioned earlier in the video, but my CPU is absolutely screaming. So if you hear any clipping, that's what that is. I really hope it's not that bad, but it might be. I haven't sat down to edit the final thing yet. Anyway, here we go. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, greet the brand new day. The sun is up, the sky is blue. It's beautiful, and so are you, dear Prudence. Won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, open up your eyes. Dear Prudence, see the sunny skies. The wind is low, the birds will sing, that you are part of everything, dear Prudence. Won't you open up your eyes? Look around, round, round.